Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Level Design Lobby. In this episode, we're going to take a deep dive into Captain Toad's adventures, breaking down their level design and how they've managed to make this quite a unique experience and make it stand on its own feet compared to its amazing predecessors of Mario. So let's jump into it. Hey everyone, I hope you're well, playing and are making the games that you love. You're joining me, your host, Max Pears, as we are listening, well you're listening, I'm talking, on the Level Design Lobby. And this week is going to be about, this episode, a whole week dedicated on one episode. This episode is about Captain Toad's Adventures, which, in case you didn't know, it came out originally on the Wii U, and then got re-released out on the Nintendo Switch. And it's a really cool game. It's something that I was interested in for a while. I wanted to play it originally, but I didn't own a Wii U. But now that it's come out for the Switch, I decided to pick it up. And since I've been traveling a bit, since the time of this recording, I was able to play quite a bit. And I've been enjoying it and really, really amazed by their level design and so much that they do with it. And it's impressive, I think, visually from an art point of view with their levels. And what I mean by that, I don't mean like the amount of graphics and tries in characters, but more of the sense of how they manage to make their levels enjoyable from a visual point of view, of them being isometric, as well as them being incredible from a gameplay point of view as well. It's been a really interesting game from that front. I also think what's really cool with it as well is how the levels keep getting more and more entertaining, in my opinion, and how they also take what you learn from the levels and apply it to the boss battles in a way as well. I think it's great things they do. Really good for encouraging exploration. I've really enjoyed what they've been doing so far, and I think that's been some really, like I said, amazing things here that overall has just been incredible. So before we get into the actual level design, I want to talk about a few things from this already. Now, as you know, Toad is under the Mario franchise, and straight away from the beginning, they want you to know that this is not Mario, it's not his story, it's not his game. Obviously, I know this because it's called Captain Toad's Adventures, but I'm saying this from a gameplay perspective. And this is one thing that I've really enjoyed with this. And I think, you know me, guys and girls now, is that I really, really enjoy now, and for a long time, I really enjoy that when people and designers, should I say, manage to create the feelings through gameplay. So when we talk about it not being Mario, you feel this right away, because Mario's main and core mechanic, the jump, is no longer in Captain Toad. Captain Toad cannot jump. Toad cannot jump in any of these levels at all. And so right from the bat, they will let you know that this is not the same game as Mario. This is a different experience under a different character, in which you're going to have a number of different moves. And because of this, them taking away the jump is such an important fact, because now the entire levels have changed. How you move throughout these levels is no longer going to be how high you can jump, timing your jump, jumping distance and measuring that. It's going to be through a completely different way. So I think that's really cool right off the bat. Another way that it distinguishes itself is the camera position. And they're both third-person games, but Mario is very much over the shoulder in the center, compared to Captain Toad, which is way more zoomed out. Now, it's not zoomed out, it changes throughout certain parts of the levels, but it tends to be quite a distance from Toad compared to Mario, where the camera is much closer, again making Mario feel larger than life, than making people know that he is the real deal, he is a big part in this adventure. While Toad, because Toads generally throughout the Mario franchise games are not the strongest of characters, shall we say. They show this again and remind you, should I say, of this feeling by having the camera zoomed much further out. And by having this, it instantly makes you realize that you are a small part. And it makes it feel even more of an adventure, I'd say, because part of going on an adventure in, for example, real life, or that of fantasy adventures we see or read about, is that compared to the environment, the character is such a small part of the environment. And they really stick to that within Captain Toad off the bat by making you feel much smaller and making the levels even feeling grander by having the camera zoomed out. Now, that is not the only reason. We'll be talking about how they use camera for the level design later as well. But it's great on how they've done this as well, because it keeps to the characterization of Toad, but also makes it feel much more of an adventure by making you feel smaller than the world around you by having this. So I think that's some of the really cool, important elements of this game. Now, it does have obviously some similarities with collecting such things as diamonds, equivalent to that of the moons or stars that Mario has to collect. But as I said, taking away the jump and changing perspective, it really has made Toad feel different in a sense. There's no power-ups as well. You can chuck and move items, but you don't have any power-ups. So again, you're a very different kind of feel to things. So now that we've got that core sense of why Captain Toad feels different and how they've established that change from Mario to Captain Toad through the core concepts and mechanics, let's talk about the level design. Now, as I mentioned already, they do something very interesting with the camera by pulling it far back. But that, as I said earlier, is not just for Toad, but it's also used as one of their main mechanics of exploration for their level design. Now, this is an isometric game, so the fact that you can only see so much of the level, it forces the camera to be moved around. And because of this, they only show a certain amount of information. And what's really nice is because, and I've mentioned this before on other things, when you want to encourage exploration, you hide parts of the level. You don't reveal a lot. You hide a bit, but not much. If you want the player to feel strong in one of your levels, then you reveal quite a lot because it reduces you wanting to explore because you've already got a lay of the land when doing this. So they, and rightfully so, they hide a lot of information around the level, therefore making you not only explore as Toad as you move, but also using the camera to assess what's going on around you. And what's really cool for this also is you can scan the area right off the bat. In any level, you can move around it. And we've talked about vantage/decision points throughout the podcast on multiple episodes, but for those who don't know what they are, they're a point in which players can, they're safe points, they tend to be, where players are not attacked, but it allows the player to understand the lay of the land. It allows them to scope out the area, maybe for a puzzle or for a combat scenario. And with the fact that these Toad levels are giant puzzles, it really does a really nice thing of, no matter where you are, you can turn the camera whenever and wherever. So right off the bat, you're starting to plan it. Your start point is your vantage point, so it allows you as the player to see what's going on and then start to move around. And that's very, very nice there. And I think what's very nice with this as well, and what also makes it feel like encouraging that movement of the camera, is the fact that their levels tend to be very, I believe for the most part, rectangular/cubes. And what's amazing about that is when you think about a puzzle in a cube, most you're probably going to think of a Rubik's Cube. And how do you solve a Rubik's Cube? You do that by moving the parts around. So subconsciously, and I don't know if this is a design intention, but it's something that I believe in, subconsciously, with the fact that you're used to moving a Rubik's Cube and you see that cube volume, that cube level, you start to move that. That encourages the movement of the camera for the player by having that symbolic relationship to that of a Rubik's Cube. So think about that. The shape of your levels can communicate subconsciously to players. And with the fact, again, you move a Rubik's Cube, you move the camera, that feels natural as playing one or the other. And most people in their lives have messed around, probably not solved though, a Rubik's Cube. I don't even think I've solved a Rubik's Cube. That's embarrassing. But that is one of the great ways, by having the shapes of the level as they are. I do believe, no, actually, I think they're actually all square bases, and some of them just have multiple levels. So I think that's, of the levels I've played so far, should I say, they've all been cube based. So think about that, how just a small thing of the shape can encourage a different type of movement. it can encourage a different style of play. So that's great, and I've really enjoyed looking at that. And when you think about that, when you're designing your levels next time, how does the shape relate to something that might be so intuitive for a player?
If you love game and level design as much as we do, then why not consider supporting Level Design Lobby on Patreon? Patreon is a crowdfunding platform that allows people to directly fund the content and creators that they love. From as little as $1 per month, you can help support us in our mission to unite and teach people across the world about the wonderful and unique field of game and level design, and get some great reward perks in return, such as access to the Level Design Lobby community Discord, bi-monthly webinars, level design weekends, and much more. So head on over to patreon.com/Level Design Lobby for more information and to pledge your support today. Finally, we'd just like to say a massive thank you to all our current backers. It's thanks to the generous support of people like you that we are able to grow and can continue to bring you awesome, new and exciting content. So thank you. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
So now we've got that, let's talk about, well, we talked about hiding information and then the shape of a level, how that's helped to encourage exploration. Another way that they help to encourage exploration in their levels is through the objectives of collecting the gems. You can collect up to 3 gems per level. And what's great with that is, to complete the level, you do not need to collect these gems. However, if you want to progress through the book, which is where all these levels are stored, you'll need to collect all these diamonds in order to progress through the game. So now, if you decide to skip through the level and just complete it, you'll only be able to progress up to a certain point. So now players have to take their time and explore all these levels in order to find those diamonds. By having these collectibles, and not just have collectibles which don't have any ramifications or impact on the main game, by having these that have an impact on the game around them, they can then encourage players to come back and replay these levels. Because if you haven't got enough diamonds, even if you've been collecting maybe 1 or 2 throughout the level, then you know you'll have to come back to these levels and replay them in order to find more diamonds. So by having collectibles throughout the level, that also encourages exploration for it. I think that's a great one in how they do this right there. You know, already we've seen 3 or 4 different ways that they are able to encourage the exploration of their levels, which is fantastic. Now that we've finished talking about how these sort of techniques help encourage exploration, and they're great, but how also do they actually use the level to push them to move the camera, to look for these diamonds, shall we say? One of the ways is they constantly hide the paths. The paths for the level are never just a straight one throughout the level. You have to change either. Generally, imagine that there's a wall splitting the 2 paths. In order for you to complete the level, you have to essentially go past the wall to get to the other path and then come back on yourself. 9 times out of 10, that's what happens in these Captain Toad levels. They make sure that the path is never in a straight line. They make sure to divide up the critical path by making you switch between this quote-unquote wall. And that's one of the ways already. By having the path split and never it being in the straight line, you're forcing the player to have to move around the environment and look for that route, to look in order for you to find your way past that puzzle. Another way that they do this is by having gold coins normally in kind of the hole that's connecting the 2 paths. And that's a great way to do it, because with any Mario game, you collect coins, and you can use these coins in a more traditional Mario for different things. In Captain Toad, I don't actually think you use the coins for anything. It's more for a collection sort of purpose. And because the coins are shiny and they rotate, it draws the player's eyes in. So by having these coins dotted on that connection, it makes players understand that, oh, there might be something behind this. Now, not only that, they will also use the visual language with certain cubes that can be destroyed, such as the ones that Mario uses his head to destroy and jump into. They are placed there as well, so players can see the difference, the contrast between a solid wall and a wall that can be destroyed. Again, by using this visual language, you are hinted and led to believe that there is something behind this wall. So I think that's a really nice way of doing it there as well. Another way that they really enjoy, well, I really enjoy, that they do, is the place of these diamonds. The diamonds are placed in a way where you can see them from the start. You can see that if you move your camera around, you can see that this is where they are, but you can't necessarily see the actual path to get to them. So it's only as you progress through the level itself and then turn your camera are you actually able to understand that this is in a different spot, that it's by having these hints and then putting the pieces together, it allows players to start to create a mental map for themselves. It is allowing players to then move throughout the space. So I think that's a really, really nice thing that we've got there with it. I think it's a really cool element to this by using such these, and when I say they're simple, I don't mean it as in an insulting way. I mean it as in they're basic. There's nothing crazy out there, but because of these small, simple ways, it makes players go off and explore. It hints to players where they need to go in order for them to take advantage of the best path around them, which is really, really nice for this. And what's great as well is, because you do multiple levels throughout this, they also do it for boss battles as well. You'll tend to find this same dragon over and over, but it's really nice because they then have the boss battle with this. And compared to most of the other levels, it's not about you against the clock, it's you just understanding the space. But with the boss battles, you now have different elements where the lava, because you fight a dragon in a volcano essentially, the lava starts to go up as you make your way through the level. So not only now do you have to figure out the way to make it to the end, but you now have to do that under a time constraint as well. And by adding that modifier to the level as well, it can make the pace feel very different, and therefore giving it a more variety for the player to feel. And I think that's a great one for it, is not only are they using it in a traditional normal sense, but they're also then adding a modifier on top of this to get more out of their level design, which is fantastic. They have other different mechanics as well, which help, such as like levers and other types of platforms, all that stuff that help. But generally the levels will be kept very similar in terms of cubes. They have the diamonds, they have the paths behind the wall, and then you have to figure out ways they hint where the diamonds are and such. And it's really, really nice design. Honestly, I think it's very unique, and that's what I've always enjoyed when I first saw this game and when I started to play it, because they have this unique style to the level. It brings a lot to it, which again is fantastic. There's a lot there with them, and I really enjoyed this game overall. And I think again it's one of Nintendo's strongest works for level design, in my opinion. And how they also again make Toad feel very different, to me, is very impressive from a gameplay point of view as well. And I think there's some great things to be learned from that and to be taken away from it. This is another thing I forgot to say, is, as I mentioned earlier, about replayability in terms of the diamonds to progress, but they then also throw in mini challenges such as find the sticker of Toad in the level, which again encourages exploration. So you go back to a level in order to find the sticker of Toad. However, they also do it where you'll see this golden envelope fly through the book, and then what will happen with that is that will make you replay a certain level in a certain way as well. Another thing that they do, which is very Nintendo, is that they don't give you these bonus objectives until after you have completed the game. And most, I think designers would, not most, but a lot of people I've met, and I definitely am unsure about it sometimes, is they will give you the bonus objectives prior to you starting the mission or the level, while here they give it to you after, which is crazy, but it's great because then it makes you think and it makes you want to replay that level. So I think that's a very, very interesting one, again, on how they encourage exploration there. That is where we are going to wrap this up. I have enjoyed this episode, as it is a great deep dive into another another great game by Nintendo, and I like doing deep dives into video games. I think there's a lot from it. It's just been really cool, and to see their level design in a much more different perspective, I've really enjoyed that one so far. So yeah, great to have this back for sure. So yeah, thank you all very, very much. If you have enjoyed this, please let us know. Like the video, subscribe, or rate if you're listening through it on the podcast, or tell your friends or colleagues if you're enjoying this. As the more people that listen, even better. We're trying to build a great community here, and we've got a great one thus far, and we're constantly pushing to make it even better. If you want to know more about my views on level design, then do follow me on Twitter @MaxPairs, or if you want to contact me, do that so on there, or email in leveldesignlobby@gmail.com. And as you heard earlier, we do have a Patreon, so please do go check that out. And just a huge thank you to all the patrons that we have thus far, because there is some amazing people who've just been great. And I really appreciate everyone, because everyone has been able to help me out at a certain point. And it's because of you, amazing Patreon and games gurus, that we're able to keep pushing the quality and keep making things better. So I really do appreciate each and every one of you sincerely. So thank you all very much. I will catch you all next time.